Ooh, all right, try to keep this short because we were just filled with seeing so many accomplishments. I'm gonna start. So we spent time in the village called La Magdalena, and it was so simple. But the fact that I spent time talking with a man who is the physical education uh, coach for his community of around like 500 people. He organizes exercise in the morning for the seniors, coach the baseball game that brigaders played with the children. And he also has a plot of his land himself and was very excited to share a very acidic fruit with me, little green balls that he was growing on his property. Uh, we spent time with a woman who was a social worker. We spent time with a hairdresser. The director of 5 schools in the region invited us to go cut wood after we had just been digging that kind of new road, bring the wood to the bakery. And then we got to roll the balls with the people who worked at the panaderia. And so just the fact that the government of Cuba compensates people to contribute to their community. These kinds of roles as someone who's like a physical education coach, like that's not profitable. Like you can't really make money for that unless you're charging for a bunch of exercise classes. And so despite the like lack of sufficient enough salaries, and also the understanding that like you're negotiating with yourself, you're not like all the income that Cuba gets, it goes to the public health industry, it goes to people's pockets, and it's not enough because that's exactly what the United States government is targeting. And yet there was so much joy and love that people wanted to share with us to show the ways that they are connected, the ways that they share food, the abundance that they still have of community, of fruit from their trees that they're growing. So I wanted to share that on a human level. We got to spend 2 days going out with doctors and nurses, and to tell a little bit about how the healthcare system works there is at the highest level, you have your specialty clinic. So that's where you go for like cancer research, blood research. Then you have your hospitals. And then on the third level, you have your clinics and the family doctors. And so for every community, there is a family doctor that you know. So for about a few hundred people. And this is something that everyone has access to. Like my partner who went on this brigade with us has not seen a doctor in 2 years because they're a substitute teacher and don't get health insurance for that. And yet Cuban doctors, not only can you go see them and knock on their door because they live above the family consulta, they actually go out into the community, do door-to-door visits at least once a year. And for pregnant women, when you are at 30 weeks pregnant, they are at your door every single day, either taking you to the gynecologist, nutritionist, psychologist. And the biggest complaint they get is like, again, we're going to another place. And the time that we got to spend in the home for women who are pregnant, any women with the at-risk pregnancy, whether they're having twins, triplets, or they don't have enough food at home, they can go to the center where they get 3 meals a day, they get activities in their rooms, get to watch TV, and at the tables that say this is how many calories you're supposed to eat for this meal, and that is all free. Their children get to visit them on the weekends. Their family doctor will visit them and go with them to the hospital, and then after, when they return to their communities, they will be visited every single day for I think about a year to check on that baby, to ensure the health of that baby. And so coming from the United States, where this is the most expensive country to have a baby in the world, to a country that we constantly say is part of the third world, is part of the developing world, is a poor country, and yet somehow they're so rich in their care for their people in terms of the healthcare system. And then the last, there's 2 last areas that I wanted to highlight, is just the ways that the revolution has transformed people's lives. There's so many statistics that we can talk about, from the ways that they combated illiteracy, dropping it down from a 23% illiteracy to 3% illiteracy, like in the year after the revolution, because they actually prioritized it. Versus in the United States, you have over 6 million people who cannot read above a 5th grade level. And yet, what we really took away from going to Santiago de Cuba, was stories. Because you can always hear the statistics again and again and again, but there's a million stories with specificity that you only get by talking to people. And I'll call him Amitio, an elder at La Magdalena we got to speak with. He was around 6 when the revolution happened. But Che actually stayed in his home, and his father worked for a plantation at like 60 cents a day. And after the revolution, they were able to get their own land. They were able to be land-owning farmers, and he grew up with this community we were visiting where he served as delegado. And in Cuba, they have it's somewhat similar government system where you have like the legislator, you have the municipal level, and then there's this block by block people power system where you have a delegate for this 500-person area, 200-person area that is supposed to serve your needs. And suppose they convene monthly meetings to talk about issues, to build roads. My professor, and she at that age was dedicating her life or paying homage to her life thanks to the revolution. And so getting to hear those stories today in 2025, and despite the challenges, hearing from the young person, given that that's a big challenge that Cuba has, young people leaving the country. I spent a lot of time talking with Guy. He's an architect working in the country, and it's hard. I want to be able to visit other places, but I want to stay and I want to make it work. And we were on the radio a few days ago, and I had the honor of getting to talk about how someone was expressing the challenge that Cuba has been fighting American imperialism for so long, fighting against colonists for so long. But the hope is that pre-1959, they were fighting for a liberation that was not there, was only existed in moments, in pockets of movements. And now they're still fighting.
Activity